Hey folks, last night was the season finale on American Idol, and with over 122 million votes, Scotty McCreery was declared the winner. I was a little bit disappointed because I was really hoping for Lauren Alaina to win, but I still like Scotty, so I wasn't that upset. Honestly though, I think both of them might have actually done better if Lauren had won. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I usually shake my head when I hear people saying stuff like this, because you hear it every season. People will say such and such person will do better if they don't win, because then they can do what they want. But you know, this whole idea that they get some kind of artistic freedom by not winning. Chris Daughtry and Adam Lambert were both signed to the same label and the same management that they would have been signed to if they had won. So this old artistic freedom nonsense is just an old myth. Honestly though, I think Lauren actually would have done better with the title, obviously, because having the title is a good thing. But let's look at Catherine McPhee. I think she could have way outsold Taylor Hicks if she had the title. And I don't think Carrie Underwood, a lot of people didn't even want Carrie to win, and they called her Farm Bot during season 4 because she was like a country robot. People didn't like her. But I don't think she would have done nearly as well as she has done without the title. Now, people look at people like Adam Lambert and Crystal Bowersox having outsold the winner in their seasons, but they still haven't really been that successful. I mean, they've only been successful in comparison because the winners have been total failures. But Adam Lambert even hasn't outsold Kesha, and so I think he would have done much better if he had the title. Whereas I think Scotty, he has this whole aura now of negativity around him because he's the fourth white guy with a guitar to carry the American Idol title, so a lot of people might dismiss him as just another guy that won American Idol. But I think his advantage is that he is nothing like the last 3 winners, and he has a different label behind him, a label that hopefully will put the winner's success as a priority. Anyway, on to the show. First up, the top 13 were together again for a group performance of Lady Gaga's Born This Way. Wait a minute, didn't we already do this earlier in the season, so why rehash it? Actually, I thought it was more impressive the first time around when it was a mashup with Born to Be Wild. But just like the last time they did this song, I found it hard to pay attention to anyone besides Jacob Lusk. I mean, her moves are so over the top. All I could think during this performance was, we know, Miss Thing, we know. And also, like the last time around, Jacob had his hand right down there on his little Lusk, or big Lusk if you actually believe the stereotype, but at least he kept his hands to himself, literally, although I suspect there were probably a few packages on that stage that he wouldn't mind holding on to. Hey, he was born that way. Next was Judas Priest with a cop from the Village People singing Living After Midnight. Can we get some YMCA in here? Isn't this already like the gayest finale ever? Okay, so maybe it was James Durbin in a silly costume. James, haven't I not already told you about those arms? Either lift some weights or wear sleeves. It is really hard to take you seriously as a hardcore rocker when you're sporting mushy arms. No, seriously though, I thought this was a really good performance. James lost the cop hat, though, before they went into Breaking the Law. James, you wore the hat for the wrong song. But I really enjoyed this performance. Next was a tribute to Randy Jackson. It was really just a video of him repeating his only 2 lines of the season. What is this show? And he's in it to win it. Randy Jackson could easily next season be replaced by a tape recorder. He could just, record a few lines, and then Jennifer Lopez could just press play when she's done speaking. There's really no reason for Randy to even show up. Ryan Seacrest said, "We gotta get you a new writer." Indeed. Next, we went to church with a performance of Smile, not the Michael Jackson, Charlie Chaplin Smile, but some other Smile, from Kirk Franklin, Jacob Lusk, and Gladys Knight. Hey, wait, Jacob was just grabbing his crotch and singing Born This Way like 5 minutes ago, and now he's going to church with Gladys Knight? What is this show, as Randy Jackson would say? Or better yet, what is this performance? I thought Gladys Knight sounded great, but that's about it. Kirk Franklin didn't even sing, really, he just hollered. I hadn't seen him in a while, though. When did he start looking like RuPaul out of drag? And of course, when Jacob started his wailing, it was just a mess. Next was Casey Abrams and Jack Black singing Fat Bottom Girls. Where were the Fat Bottom Girls? I know it sounds like a Jacob Lusk style joke, where the fat, get it, Fat Bottom Girl? Anyway, that was, okay, I tried to turn it into a Jacob Lusk joke, but it didn't really work out. But anyway, isn't it ironic that when the dancers came out on stage, there were a bunch of assless ladies? I thought that was very ironic, and what I also thought was ironic, for all this talk this season about Casey being such a brilliant musician, Jack Black was actually the better singer. Casey got upstaged by a freaking comedian. I thought that was funny. Next was the girls of the top 13 for a Beyonce medley. I thought Haley looked like a stripper with her little garter belt. Some of them, I think, another one of them looked like a stripper too, but I can't remember which one it was right off the top of my head. But they all sounded pretty good though, except for Thea McGee. Now, she was one of my favorites early on in the season, but she didn't didn't sound good last night at all. It was nice to see Pia Toscano again, though. I saw a few people online that were upset because Pia didn't get her own duet or even a solo. It's simple. She went home too early. Now, I know her elimination was a surprise, but that does not mean that she should get special treatment. This season, the top 6 got duets. If they gave Pia one, wouldn't it have only been fair to give Paul and Stefano one too? Well, I guess they could have eliminated some of their riffraff and worked them all in, but whatever. Beyonce joined the girls for the ass end of this performance, sang a few lines, and then it was over. I thought, what was the point? Next, it was time for Steven Tyler's tribute. Now, this little segment really pointed out what a pervert Steven actually is, but more importantly, it showed how strong he started off this season and what a complete disappointment he's become. Speaking of perverted little old men, Haley Reinhart's duet with Tony Bennett was all sorts of creepy, wasn't it? Isn't he old enough to be like her great-great-grandfather? Poor thing even forgot the words to his own song. I thought Haley did a great job with it, though, even though I don't usually like Haley Reinhart. And I know this is awful of me, but every time Tony Bennett said, "I'm stepping out with my baby," I couldn't help but think, Grandpa, you ain't stepping nowhere. She might step out, but you're going to have to be carried out or wheeled out. I don't know. I could be wrong, though, because he was twirling around on that stage like he was in his 70s. Grandpa's still got a few good years left in him. Next, it was time for J-Lo's tribute. It was just clips of people telling her how stunning she is. I believe she put that clip together herself. And when it was over, it looked like she was almost in tears, like she found it very touching. Next was Lil John with What's Left of TLC and the girls of the top 13. They started out with No Scrubs and then Waterfalls, which I love, though I'm pretty convinced that they were lip syncing. They sounded almost exactly like the CD. Still, I was enjoying it until the girls from the top 13 showed up and started their wailing and ruined it. Next was Scotty McCreery and Tim McGraw singing Live Like You Were Dying. It was a pretty good duet, even though I'm not really crazy about this song. I mean, well, I know it's supposed to be an inspirational song and all that, but jumping out of planes and hopping on the back of wild bulls, those are only things that you should do if you're actually trying to die. There were a couple of instances, though, in this performance, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that saw this, but did Tim McGraw slap Scotty McCreery on the rear end? I thought my eyes were deceiving me when I saw that hand go for Scotty's ass. And maybe it was just the camera angle, but before it was all said and done, it happened again. See, I told y'all this was a gay finale. I really wish, though, that Lauren Alaina had come out there and pulled a Faith Hill. Remember that video that was on YouTube of Faith Hill saying, "You don't go grabbing somebody's husband's balls"? Lauren could have said, "Look here, mister, you don't go putting your hand on somebody else's boyfriend's ass." Well, that is, of course, assuming that Scotty is her boyfriend. Well, I know they've said before that they aren't a couple, but they sure seemed like one last night, didn't they? Next was a clip of this season's Riff Raff, hosted by Joe Ripka. I was expecting them to hand out some Golden Idol awards, but I guess even this year's losers weren't worthy. Next was a performance from Marc Anthony, and Ryan Seacrest acted like there was going to be some kind of huge surprise, but it was clear that Jennifer Lopez was absent from the judges' table, so that kind of sucked the whole surprise element out of it. I mean, you knew Jennifer Lopez was going to be a part of the performance, but when her husband started singing his face off, I thought, how in the hell is she going to lip-sync her way out of this one? But she didn't, though. Luckily, she didn't have to. All she did was dance. She came out and shook her booty. There's that fat-bottomed girl that was noticeably absent for Casey's performance with Jack Black. Next was a cute little skit with Casey and James arguing about whose elimination was the most shocking. I didn't think either one of them was that shocking, actually, to tell you the truth. But I thought Casey was funny, but I think James actually meant everything that he said, because he basically has been saying the same thing in interviews lately. He has such a huge ego. He even compared himself to Chris Daughtry, but I still thought that he was adorable when he said, "I was sad." Then Pia Toscano walked in with her tiara and most shocking banner and said, "What are you guys talking about?" And they were like, "Nothing." And she said, "That's what I thought." That was one of the highlights of the night for me. Next, Ryan Seacrest introduced Casey, James, and the rest of the top 13. I was confused at first. I thought, what's Casey James doing there? I thought he meant Casey James from last season, as in Casey James, but he meant Casey and James. Maybe you should have said James and Casey, so as not to confuse scatterbrains like myself. Anyway, it was a medley of songs starting with Stefano singing Prince. I was very impressed with Stefano. Of course, he was always more impressive during the group numbers than he was on his own. I thought this performance started out very strong, but it quickly devolved into a silly mess. And to make matters worse, the guys were eventually joined on stage by Tom Jones. Can you believe that women used to go crazy over that old thing? At this point, I thought the show maybe was going to turn into a geriatric idol like last year's finale with Tom Jones and Tony Bennett, but Tony actually was really the last really, really old person of the night, if you don't count Steven Tyler. Next was the last Ford music video of the season. Well, obviously the last one was the last show of the season, but anyway, it was clips of all the season's Ford music videos put together, and Lauren and Scotty singing Whenever You Remember. I swear those two sound so good together. I hope they do a whole album together. Next, Lauren and Scotty got to bring one of their teachers to the finale. Who else thinks that Scotty had a crush on his teacher? I can't say I blame him, though. That was a very pretty young lady. I almost had a crush on her, and I'm a homosexual. Then they surprised their teachers with keys to a Ford Focus. And then Ryan told Lauren and Scotty that they both get any Ford car that they wanted. Now, traditionally, if you'll remember past seasons, the last season's winner usually presents the top two with their new cars. Well, you know what happened this season? Why didn't Lee DeWise do it? He wasn't invited to the finale. Isn't that awful? I'm not even a Lee DeWise fan, but that's just terrible. I know they want to forget that last season ever happened, but to not even invite the guy who was, at the time, the current reigning American Idol, that's sick. Next was Lady Gaga singing The Edge of Glory on top of some mountain that she brought in on stage with her. When it started out, Gaga looked exactly like a lamp that's in my mother's living room. I felt like I was at home. Then she stripped down and some guy came in up there with her and the whole thing damn near devolved into pornography. Still, it was better than watching Tom Jones or Tony Bennett. Next was Lauren Alaina's duet with Carrie Underwood of Before He Cheats. Carrie, Beyonce is going to need her legs back before her next performance. Carrie's legs were dark, weren't they? And they looked like a real tan, too, not one of those spray-on tans. I think Carrie's been spending a little bit too much time in the sunlight. She might really want to reconsider that, though, because, well, we all know that tanning causes premature wrinkles. We saw a clear example of this earlier in the season when Iggy Pop came out looking like a slab of leather. I only mention this out of concern for Carrie. She's a beautiful young woman, and I'd hate to see her looking like an old billfold by the time she's 40. No, really, though, I thought Lauren and Carrie were great together. It makes me wish that Lauren had done this song earlier in the season. Next was the top 13 making fun of how young Lauren and Scotty are. I thought Naima was the best one. She said, they still got Similac on their breath. Stefano said, wasn't American Juniors canceled a while ago? Next was Beyonce again. Who in the hell is that lady sleeping with? A solo mentoring session last week and a premiere of her music video. And then this week she gets 2 performances at the finale? What is really going on though? Anyway, she sang 1+1 and killed it. Beyonce is in it to win it. I was wanting the number so I could call in and vote for her. She's so gorgeous, though. Easily the best performance of the night. Really, for the next performance, they should have got Kanye out there to interrupt and say, I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you finish. But Beyonce had the best performance of the night. Next was it would have been the perfect performance to interrupt because it was a very bizarre performance with The Edge and Bono singing Rise Above with some dude that I've never heard of named Reeve. Carney. He's a cutie, though. Kind of looked like Chris Allen minus the crooked jaw. I never understood the whole Bono craze, though. I had never really cared for U2. Spiderman was flying around the building for this performance, though. Nobody got maimed or killed, so I guess it turned out to be a success. He got right down in J-Lo's face, though, and at the end, she started pulling down his mask. I thought she was going to pull it off Scooby-Doo style and reveal him to be somebody impressive, but she only revealed his mouth and nose before he was whisked back up into the rafters. And, of course, the last performance before the results was Steven Tyler with Dream On. I was actually waiting for James Durbin to join him. Weren't they supposed to perform together at the finale? Well, I guess that's only if James had survived to the finale. As a small consolation, though, it looked as though some of his tails were attached to Steven's mic stand. Actually, who I really wanted to see join Steven Tyler was Danny Gokey. I just cannot listen to this song anymore without thinking about Danny Gokey and the Scream of Death. Steven showed him how it was really done. It was a really good performance. And, of course, with the show in overtime, finally on to the results, and the winner is, of course, Scotty McCreery. So, congratulations, Scotty. I was disappointed, but oh well. Scotty went around hugging everybody, though. You should have been singing, Scotty. It's time to sing. You can hug after the show. He didn't hug Jack Black, though. Jack Black reached in for the hug, and Scotty just walked right past him. That was so sad. I felt so bad for poor Jack Black. He was just too busy hugging everybody. And then he turned his head up and started eating the confetti like it was snow. It's a good thing he didn't choke. Wouldn't it have been so embarrassing if he had choked on the confetti and just died right there on stage? Anyway, like I said, I hope the label really does a lot to promote Scotty, and I hope he is the most successful person this season. And I think the label is more concerned about doing that than the previous label. From what I hear, Haley Reinhart has recorded a single. Pia Toscano has recorded a single. I think this new label they're not going to be so quick to put out so many albums as they are to put out singles. And if the singles work out, then record an album, because the last label, they seemed to just put out album after album after album. They didn't care if they were flops, just as long as they had one hit. Well, they saved money just by getting that one hit, and not the full album. So, but I hope Scotty does really well. Not crazy about his first single, but what can you do? He is from North Carolina. A lot of people thought, because me and him are from the same state, that I should have been rooting for him. But the hometown thing got kind of tiresome a while ago, because there's been so many Idol contestants from North Carolina. We've had Kelly Pickler, Chris Daughtry, Fantasia Barrino, Anoop Desai. There's so many of them. Actually, 3 out of the top 5 best-selling American Idol contestants are from North Carolina. So, and 4 out of the top 8. So maybe Scotty can join them. It makes you wonder why they don't come back to North Carolina for auditions, because there's been so much success from the contestants. And very diverse, too. You've got Clay Aiken, you've got Scotty and Kelly Pickler, and Chris Daughtry and Fantasia. But maybe they think we're hogging the show. Anyway, so that was it for the finale, and I'll be back within the next week for my top 10 best and worst performances of the season. And then, of course, I'll be back next week with my review of The Voice, which I know I haven't done in a while because, well, I've been lazy. But I think I'm going to do, when the battle rounds are over, I shouldn't be talking about The Voice in this video, but when the battle rounds are over, I'm going to do like one video for the battle rounds, and then we move on to the live shows. And then, of course, the X Factor starts in August, and Simon's already having problems over there. One of his judges, he's already canned. And replaced with one of the co-hosts, so I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, and then of course I'm going to talk about non-Idol things too. I fall into this trap every year where usually I'd like to talk about other things in addition to American Idol, but I always forget to talk about other things when American Idol's on. And so I have a lot of people will start complaining at the beginning of the season, dude, talk about something other than American Idol. And then when the season's over and I'm talking about, and then people unsubscribe to me, and then when the season's over and I talk about something else, a lot of people will unsubscribe and say, dude, stick with American Idol. So maybe if I could do both at the same time, I don't know. But anyway, it's been a great season. I've really enjoyed this season. It has been infuriating at times, but it was still a very entertaining season. Hopefully the judges will be replaced by next year, and it will be even better. Anyway, I'll see you folks later.